Welcome to the Bucher and Friends podcast, co-starring 10-year NBA center Ryan Hollins.
Couple pump fakes, leans in, shot blocked by Ryan Hollins. Hollins sent that into the third row.
6 rebounds and 8 assists.
Hollins climbs the stairs.
Down the floor. Ryan Hollins! He is the high jumper!
That's what I want to see. Give me some gunpowder and throw the hammer down.
And now, here is your host,
Let's send it over to Rick Bucher.
Rick Bucher.
Welcome to another episode of Bucher and Hollins, subsidiary of Bucher and Friends, part of the United WeCast network. I'm Rick Bucher. You can read my stuff on Bleacher Report or on Twitter at Rick Bucher. You can find him, Ryan Hollins, at ESPN, NBA Radio, and on Twitter at the Ryan Hollins. And you can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Bucher Friends. You have been tearing it up lately, my friend, with all sorts of pronouncements that are garnering a lot of attention. Whether it's the Toronto Raptors are going to be the next NBA champions, something that you said at the beginning of the season, and I think you echoed yesterday, is looking rather prescient, and that Giannis Antetokounmpo is a great talent, but he's not a closer yet. And I concur, certainly with the latter. I think we're probably on an island by ourselves. Not too many people. It's the island of misfit opinions at this point, according to most of the NBA. But we'll see where that goes. We're not afraid to zig when everybody else zags. And today's show is also going to be primarily about our picks for the Friday night games. There are 6 lines that are up now, so 3 of them we will be giving you via Twitter tomorrow after the podcast is released. We do all of that for sportsbetcollective.com, and we'll get to that in just a second. But I was looking at the standings, and we have a host of teams that technically right now are outside of the playoff picture. Now, we're still early, right? For sure. But the Rockets, the Timberwolves, the Jazz, the Pelicans, the Spurs, and the Blazers are all technically on the outside looking in right now, and those were all playoff teams last year. Now, they're not out of the picture by a whole lot, but I wonder, Ryan, when you look at those teams, are there ones that you look at and say, okay, well, we'll have a course correction here shortly? And are there others where you think, you know what? This might be a sign of the times, and they might not be able to dig themselves out.
Minnesota, I put out. It's a thick race. I don't think they have the experience. Houston, I put in because their front office is willing to make moves. You know, you see they've been very proactive with Carmelo Anthony, and Carmelo clearly isn't the problem because they ain't just jumped the standings since he's been out.
Right.
Utah, I'm not really sold on. You know, I've never quite loved what they do. San Antonio, I feel like consistency wins out with them. They had a huge win over the Clippers tonight. Portland, I mean, they're going to leapfrog Sacramento. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to leap Sacramento. And other than that, everything's in the air.
Pelicans, where do you put them?
I'm not big on the Pelicans, man. You lose Rondo, and it's not necessarily Rondo on the court, but it's like when we need a game, like who's going to be ready? Mm-hmm. And AD's not a leader. He's going to go out and he's going to get you his, 40, as we saw the other night against OKC, 40, 30, whatever. He's going to get his numbers, but he's not necessarily that group, that team motivator. That doesn't say he's a bad player at all, but that's what that group needs because they're really like the same deal as last year. You just minus Cousins, and they kind of let him go because you can argue that they were better without him.
Yeah, no, missing Rajon Rondo, there's no doubt about it. And I thought he had a profound effect. A little bit, I'm dating myself a little bit, but the first comparison I think of is when Sam Cassell came in and he took Elton Brand to another level. Now, Elton and AD are different players, but they're the same in that they really needed somebody who was going to push them. That was going to be the fire starter. And Sam did that for Elton. That was the best that I've seen Elton play. And I feel like Rajon kind of did the same thing for AD. So I'm with you on that. What is your, just 2 of the games, we're recording this Thursday night, What do you make of the Rockets and their solid, definitive win over the Lakers and the Clippers getting absolutely run by the Spurs?
So here's the deal with the Rockets. Harden goes for historical numbers again tonight, which was quite average, normal for him last year. 50, triple-double with 50. Ridiculous. There's not too many guys in NBA history who can do that. But is it going to take that type of effort from him every night?
Yeah.
He can't do that. He can't sustain that. And the reason that was pretty sustainable last year, he would go dry. You watched him. He'll go dry the whole first quarter, second quarter. He just won't have nothing going. And Ariza and Joe Green and all those guys last year, they got stops. They just got stop after stop. They muddied the game up. They could last. They gave you just enough. And then James will get going, and he's going at this pace that there's nothing you can really do. You can't honestly do to stop him. So that's what they're missing. And it's too hard for James to maintain that pace or the way that he shoots. He's very reliant on the three ball. He's got to either shoot that three or he sacrifices his body at the rim. And he's a tough competitor. And then he's got the Capella lob. But if he's not going, they don't have a whole quarter to wait until James is loose. Mm-hmm. And that ends up being the real problem with the Rockets. You just cannot expect that. And their defense is not going to carry them, man.
I agree. People thinking that having Jeff Bzdelik back and that it was a coaching strategy element. No, you lost some really good defenders. Luc Bamute and Trevor Ariza were big pieces of that. And when you play that switching defense and you don't have the same caliber of guys out there, I don't care what scheme you're using. And then on top of it, I think we've seen, I don't know if you've seen it, Chris Paul, to me, is sliding. Chris Paul is getting his competitive nature, his
you just
firiness.
Now seeing that?
Well,
you just saw this?
No. I mean, from his elite status, I knew he'd fallen off. But I feel as if he's taken another backward step. Like he's gone down another noticeable notch this season.
Dude, it's just a real buffer when you can wait until you get going. He can't wait.
Yeah,
he can't wait. None of those guys can wait, and he needs it even more than James because guess what? Now he's got to guard somebody that he necessarily didn't want to have to guard, or James has to guard him.
Right.
That was one less guy you
point.
had to worry about, and then you kind of maybe spell one of those two and say, okay, CP, you run the show. Okay, James, you run the show, and like you can't do that anymore. You can't afford the rest. You can't afford the lack of defense. You can't afford the, hey, my turn to score. Our offense versus your defense. Like it's just not going to work.
Yeah, there's got to be something to the fact that I don't know what Capella's numbers are, but you know how it is when you're working to get that payday, and then you get that payday. There's no way that doesn't affect you. That you're going to go out. I mean, yeah, sure. I'm imagining there's some guys that go out and they play even harder. Sometimes they try to do too much. But look, when you go from making scratch by NBA standards and then you get the $100 million plus, you can't tell me that somehow, some way that doesn't have an impact on the hunger factor and the overall work ethic.
Yeah, it's just a natural fact. I think Clint still plays hard, but Clint is going to look a whole lot worse when he goes to block a shot. Nobody's V'ing back or covering down.
Right.
And then when he starts hesitating on going to help, now that becomes a problem. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a domino effect. And, there's no one-man bands down there. And he's done a great job, does a great job defensively. Or when he switches out on the point guards, which you'll see often, and there's no rebounding, no help on the backside, he's less comfortable switching out onto those guards because he's like, well, dang, nobody's got my back.
Right. We've seen the Clippers now lose 4 of their last 5. The last 2 the last 3 that they've lost by big numbers to the Heat, the Raptors, and the Spurs. 2 of those at home. Are we seeing reality hit the Clippers at this stage?
No, I just want everybody to know, and I'm going to say this, and with all due respect to Tobias Harris, but Lou Williams is the all-star on that team. He makes them different. what Tobias does that's special is that he can play off the ball. He's efficient. He's gotten better on the ball and attacking. But when you drive and kick, his three-pointer is a layup. He's shooting it at just his efficiency level is off the chain. But Lou Williams breaks your coverages. Lou Williams makes you have to decide to step up and take away his three ball or drop back or take away Montrezl Harrell on the rim or that skip to Mike Scott because it's the other big sliding over to help. He picks apart your coverages, and teams are now playing the Clippers in a drop and just saying, well, Milos or whoever the other guards are, beat us.
Yeah. Come
beat us. And they're not good enough to beat them. So just the Lou Williams effect is big. I mean, he was at one point, leading the NBA or second in the NBA in fourth quarter scoring. So a lot of what he was doing changed everything. And he got sick off one of the road trips, and he came back, and he didn't play well since he was sick. Then he's just been kind of off a little lately, and then pop of the hamstring. But Rick, I want to get your thoughts about this because this is part of what the Clippers are going through right now, and I'm sure every team in the league is doing it. So the league comes in and makes a big effort to get rid of not just the back-to-back games, but the 4 and 5 nights. Mm-hmm. So you end up with a lot of 1-and-1s. So the Clippers have played games, for instance, where they'll go to Sacramento. They'll come back the very next night or the other day, and they'll be at home, and then they'll go right back out to Portland. Then they'll come back home. So within that space, it's not really a day off because you got to leave that same night or you're flying the next day, and your body's dehydrated from the travel. So now the Clippers, even though they're a deep team, they're guys they rely on. Montrezl Harrell, his legs are just gone, bro. They're flat. They're flat, and it's really attributed to to the travel where if I get my 4 and 5 nights, I got 3 or 4 days off in a row, bro. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? I get a nice homestand, and there's no 2 games at home.
Well, there's something to be said depending on how the travel works out in the 4 out of 5. And look, I mean, it's not a fault of the NBA. They're looking for ways to solve the travel issue. But you're right in that when you have a 1-game homestand, it's almost like just another travel day because you're in, you're out, and there's no recovery. So I'm with you 100% in that can be having the schedule looks easier, but if the homestand doesn't give you any time to settle in, basically coming home for one game and then rolling out again is not much of a break. So I agree with you there. There's one other story that I want to get to. And this
real quick, do you think guys will adjust to it, or do you think NBA should go back?
I don't think they should go back to the 4 out of 5. Look, let's find a sweet spot where
you want to play into August. I mean, it's one or the other, bro.
Well, not necessarily. I mean, you're working.
NBA
with the same
finals
space.
Will be in August.
No. I'm not saying add days. I'm just saying.
You want to shorten games? You want to shorten the paycheck?
No. Well, I mean, ideally, if you could take it from 82 to like 66 games, that would be huge.
You're gonna lose off your money. That's your money too.
You don't have to lose off your money.
Yes,
you don't have to lose off your money.
Yes, you do. Do you know how much money in-game productions, in-game TV, just the TV deal and stadium that you did? Rick, you got to think about that, bro. I'm gonna take a 20% or 15% of your paycheck. Is that your paycheck too, Rick? TV pays for those days, for those ads, those commercials.
If we want a solution, everybody's got to give a little bit, Ryan.
I ain't giving. I ain't giving. Shoot, we need them NBA days. Shoot.
All right. This is a story that doesn't have anything to do with anybody who's in the NBA right now, but it is a juicy story, and I want to get your take on this. So, Derek Fisher, just named head coach of the LA Sparks of the WNBA, former Players Association president, announced that he has joined a what do they call it? Whether it's a luxury lending outfit. Let me get the name of this. Luxury Asset Capital. It's an alternative financing vehicle for athletes that lends them between $50,000 and $5 million, using their property, contracts, and pension as collateral. That's I'm quoting from Darren Ravel's tweet from the other day. And Baron Davis came out in no uncertain terms and said Derek Fisher sold us out in the CBA. Now he's selling us out again. Athletes going broke. Let's make money off of that. Hashtag slap yourself. Hashtag Buster. Hashtag sellout. Hashtag ban syndrome. You know both of these guys. I know both of these guys. It's hard to take sides here, but I can't help but feel as if there's some question marks about exactly what this luxury asset capital business is all about.
Gosh, there's so much meat on this, and I want to be real careful of it, of how I put it out. Let me go back to the CBA. So Billy was the president of the Players Association.
The director.
Yeah.
Billy Hunter.
And
Shady.
We find out he was essentially in the pockets of Stern or whatever, being run by Stern. He was taking money. He was embezzling money. His son was. And Derek Fisher was the guy. He was the veteran of the NBA. His voice was gold. He was the guy, he spoke well. He's calm. He's patient. Everybody, you would trust Derek Fisher with your life if need be. You know what I'm saying? And come to find out that
El
Billy
Presidente.
was stealing.
El Presidente, they called him.
Billy was stealing. Yeah, Billy was stealing. I don't know if it's ever been put down that Derek was stealing, but it would be safe to assume that. And, the players were crushed by that because they gave us all these rah-rah speeches about what we should do during the CBA and hold out and this and that. But behind our eyes, these deals were being signed and stamped on without anybody essentially knowing.
Well, now wait a minute. So Billy wanted to oust Derek as the president of the Players Association. And I know that Billy was found guilty of embezzlement and nepotism, and you can go down the line. It was out there. And I can tell you a story going all the way back to the first lockout that I found out that told me how shady Billy Hunter was and that he and David Stern were working in concert in spite of all appearances. And this is where it gets difficult because, number one, Derek was the one who challenged Billy, and then Billy wanted him out. So I don't know if Derek was trying to exploit the players too. I know Billy was.
Maybe Derek was or Derek wasn't, but from the player's standpoint, the trust is lost there. And there's some weird stuff going in. Michelle Roberts steps in, all is well in the world. And I will say this. Matt Barnes he's like a brother to me. For all us UCLA guys, we're thicker than thieves. We all stick together. And I'll also say if Matt's good with Derek, I'm good with Derek. But Derek broke a code that I don't care if it's in the locker room. I don't care if it's in the workplace. I don't care if you're on the schoolyard, bro. Like, you don't do that, Rick, And
you're talking about getting with Matt Barnes's ex.
Yeah. And, for somebody you held in such a high esteem, that hurt. It wasn't even like a mad thing. Like, that hurt. That hurt a lot of people, man, because Derek, to our understanding, was a good dude, man. You rely on him, talk to him, and I'm not in anybody of those shoes. So everything that he does kind of for the rest of his life, you're going to give a second thought to. And that genuineness that he speaks with and he talks with is always going to be looked at kind of second-handed, and I'm definitely not past forgiving sins, and honestly really ain't none of my business. But just from a player standpoint, that's really the consensus when it comes to Derek.
Yeah.
And if we spell out what they're doing, I'm paying you $4 or $5 million, and you got to pay me back plus a crazy amount of interest. I gotta imagine LA Glitters ain't go. You paying it back. So, like, are you putting these guys in even more debt? It just doesn't sound right. Or are you a venture capital fund where they have an idea? Now, I'd be okay with this if guys wanted to invest in a hotel building or franchising or something, and you help bring the capital to these guys because you believe in their contracts to help them get their businesses started. But if this is just fun money for these guys, you're just as bad as anybody else, and you're kind of using your likeness for the wrong thing. So that's the question. I don't know enough about it, but I just know at first emotion where Barron's comments are coming from.
Yeah, I don't know who it was. There was somebody who referenced this luxury asset capital as basically a loan shark company. I don't know enough of the details, as you said. Like, I don't know the terms. I don't know the interest. I don't know how much they're trying to find ways. Are they lending money to help these guys out of their problems, or are they lending them money just so that they can get deeper into debt, and they're not trying to resolve any of the issues that created the problem in the first place? I don't know that. And I would like to think, because Derek has always been good by me, so I can only go by what I've experienced. And knowing what I know about Billy Hunter, it is possible that both of them were not serving in the best interests of the players, but I know Billy wasn't. And once Billy went after Derek, my suspicion was, well, maybe Derek's on the right side of things. I don't know more than that. So it is, I get it. I get how this looks really suspect. I don't want to pass judgment either. But I will say, it's like, as you noted, there's been a couple things that have happened with Derek of late that run counter to the image and the impression everybody had of him when he was playing. So we'll ultimately see how this plays out. But everybody's on notice now about luxury asset capital. Like, some guy comes in there and they end up, lending a dude money, and he ends up losing his house and losing all his assets.
I don't like the idea of borrowing against a contract. Like, I just hear that and I go,
pension as collateral.
I don't like that.
Dude, that's taking away a dude's safety net.
Yeah. Now
if you're lending it because he's in a tough spot and he's going to lose more if he doesn't have the cash on hand to kind of even things up, and you make it feasible for him to pay it, if you give him sort of lenient terms, you're trying to help him out, that's a different story. So ultimately, we'll see where this goes.
Yeah, or maybe, that they're not going to let you get the type of capital you want to, live your dreams financially with something else, which is hard to kind of say for an NBA guy. But, yeah, we're on the same page, Rick.
Yeah. All right. Let's be real. Betting on sports makes the games a lot more fun to watch. I don't know about you, because I've never worried about, picking against the spread or the over-under. And I have to tell you, now that we've begun doing this...
now. You texting me all the darn time. God,
well, I got to tell you, man.
So you're competitive, bro.
So my buddies, when I got married to my wife, who was also competitive, they said that for a wedding gift, they were going to give us a scoreboard to put up in our living room.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
You have a real problem. You have a real problem, bro.
Wait a minute. I have a problem. Why? Because I'm competitive?
Yeah. Like, dude, you're just like...
Stop it.
It's like 2 a.m. You're like, yo, what's the spread? And you haven't even... Hey, Rick, you haven't even bet any money. You haven't even bet any money.
No, man.
I told you that was a great pick.
My pride and my knowledge are on the line, and that's more valuable to me than money.
Take your heart out of these picks. That's where you're screwing up. Take your heart out of it.
Hell no. That's not possible. All right. Anyway, so we're here to give you our favorite NBA picks of the week. We do that for sportsbetcollective.com. We give you commentary you're not going to find anyplace else. And the first pick is free, and you should also sign up for the newsletter with free weekly picks from top experts giving you a betting advantage, not just in the NBA, but the NFL, college football, college hoops, the NHL as well. I do it several times a week. I'm joined by a credible cast of sports media experts, professional sports bettors, retired athletes, sports-obsessed entertainers. You can go into the site and you can see who's really nailing it, and you can follow them. And it is super inexpensive. For what you're going to make off of the knowledge, it's well worth the couple bucks that you're going to spend. So if you're seasoned bettor or you're a total beginner, sportsbetcollective.com provides an affordable way to help you beat the odds no matter the size of your bet. And you can find all of my picks there at sportsbetcollective.com. Now, I had a really good week. Wednesday, I got 5 out of 7 right. I went 0 for 2 tonight on the Rockets game. I took
Are
the
you
Lakers.
betting every night?
I took the Lakers in the
Are
5.
you betting every night?
I'm not
Oh my
doing it
gosh.
every night, but
You got a problem.
I'm not doing it every night.
Oh,
But we are
gosh.
gonna do as many games as we can tonight. Now there's only 6 of the lines that are out. 3 of them that we will send out by Twitter tomorrow. So are you ready? I'm not gonna take any more of your guff. Let's get after it.
Oh man.
All right. So
Let's go, Rick.
Game 1, we have the Atlanta Hawks and the Boston Celtics. The Celtics are giving the Hawks 13 points, and the over-under is 225. Where are you going to go on that?
Well, we're going with the over,
Yep.
and we're going to take Boston because Atlanta's just falling apart.
Yep. I'm with you on both of those. We don't need to waste any more time on that one. Let's go to the Knicks and Charlotte. The Hornets are giving the Knicks 11. By the way, almost all of these games tonight, not all, but the majority, they're big numbers, which I hate. I hate laying a lot of points.
Yeah.
But, well, we'll see where we go. All right, so we have the Knicks and the Hornets. The Hornets are giving the Knicks 11, and the over-under is 226. Now, as much as I don't like that number, and the Hornets aren't what I think of as a team that blows other teams out, I'm going to go with Charlotte. I'm going to give the 11. I was really disappointed in how the Knicks played against the Cavs the other night. I thought that was a gettable game for them. And the Cavs, they got everybody on the trading block. They've already traded away some of their best talent. J.R. Smith is nowhere to be found. And the Knicks simply didn't show up. So I'm going to take Charlotte. I'm going to give the 11. And I'm going to go with the over, though, because I believe that this is going to be, I think 226 is very gettable for these two teams.
I'm actually going to go with New York here. I don't think they're 11 points worse. And I'm going with the under. Teams are kind of, locking in on Kemba even more than before. So that's where I'm going, Rick.
Okay. All right. Bucks and the Cavs. The Cavs are getting 10.5 points from Milwaukee. Game is in Cleveland. And by the way, that game with the Knicks in Charlotte is in Charlotte, and the Hawks Celtics is in Boston. But this one's in Cleveland. The Cavs are getting 10.5, a home underdog, and the over-under is 219. Where are you going?
Going with the Bucks, and I'm going to take the over.
So you're laying the 10.5?
Yeah, I'm giving up 10.5. I think that, it's not going to be a pressure game. And they play hard as heck. They want to get in transition. I just like the Bucks in this situation.
And you're going over.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go with Milwaukee, but I'm going to take the under. They played just 4 days ago, and the Bucks won 108-92. They didn't cover. It was the spread was 10.5 then, and they didn't make the over of 217.5. My concern is I don't know if the Cavs can do their part in scoring. I could see this as a lopsided win, but not necessarily going over.
Thought about that too. We'll get it in garbage time. That's my thoughts.
Okay. Wizards are visiting the Brooklyn Nets. The Nets are giving the Wizards 1.5, and the over-under is 226. I'm going to go with the Wizards. I'm going to take the 1.5, and I'm going to go with the over because the Nets just went over 225.5 against Philly. And the Wizards just don't give the same effort on the road as they do at home. They haven't been very good. They don't give an effort consistently anywhere, but they've been better at home at least than they have been on the road. So I think that this is going to be kind of an open game. So I'm going to go with the over. What do you got?
I'm going with Brooklyn, and I'm taking the over. Yeah, Washington doesn't defend.
Brooklyn has been kind of has slid a little bit here. Like they've been competitive, but they've lost they've lost quite a few games of late.
But to some good teams though.
Yeah. Well, this is the tough part with the Wizards. The Wizards can be really competitive again. They've been they took Boston to overtime. I mean,
know.
And I had Boston in that game, and I thought that was one of my easy picks.
Man, the schedule is probably screwing everybody, man.
Yeah.
And it's hard to beat these teams twice, man. You're going to start to see these averages start to come down, man. These legs are gone, and you're going to see a lot of that dropping.
I haven't tracked it, but I will say, early in the season, we were going over a lot. It was almost automatic no matter where the number is. And now we're seeing games where
you said it was
teams are struggling to get to 100.
You called that. You definitely called that, Rick.
Thank you. All right. Here's a tricky one. Warriors are visiting the Kings, and the Kings are getting 8.5, and the over is 235. Where are you going with that?
Battle of the Bay. I'm going to take the Warriors here, and only 8. Yeah, I'll take that, and we're going over because Sacramento. They're just, they're pushing tempo, whether it's good for them or not. Like that pace is going to be there. It
is, and Sacramento, for your information, has the best over/under record in the league. They've gone 17-10. I am actually, though, I will go Warriors with the 8.5, but I'm going to go under the 235. And it's not so much the Kings. I think you're right. It's an up and down game. The Warriors don't look like a particularly charged team. And I think this is another case of what you're talking about with the schedule. Yeah, they got days in between, but they're going up to SAC. I assume they're taking the bus up there. I'm not impressed with the energy of the Warriors right now, and I think they're in a place in the season where normally and maybe in previous years they'd get a beat down like this from Toronto, and they'd be full of fire to get back in the saddle. I don't think SAC generates that from them, and I just feel like they're looking at it going, "Hey, it's December. It's not even Christmas. We can't get hot and bothered about anything at this stage." All right, Oklahoma City and Denver. Denver is getting 2 points, home underdog. 217 is the line on the over/under. And this is the last one that we have that is posted for Thursday night for Friday. I'm going to have to go Denver, and I am going to go with the over. I think OKC is going to try to push the tempo. But I believe that in spite of all the injuries, Denver right now can still score. And I'm OKC and the way they lost to the Pelicans kind of was a wake-up call for me. I don't know. Here's the question I have for you. The Adams-Jokic matchup. Who do you see winning that? Who do you see having the advantage there?
Well, Steven Adams can definitely guard Jokic. He's gonna be able to take him down to the block. But he facilitates, so I'm actually going with the under. I'm going to go Nuggets here. But, the thing about Jokic is that he beats you in a number of different ways. So it's not like, oh, he's not scoring, he's a dud, because Steven Adams is going to make things hard, but he will get everybody else involved. He's a big part of the offense. And I just think Oklahoma City, they're just really struggling offensively. Yeah. I'm not in love with what they do or how they have to get in games. You need kind of this superhuman performance from Russell or from Paul, and I just don't think it's going to be there. So I'm going to lean on the Nuggets.
Yeah, I'm looking at this now because back on November 24th, Denver beat OKC 105-98, and I believe the line was 217 for that one, and Denver was getting 6.5. And this is, to your point, the whole idea that it's really hard to beat a team twice. I think the caveat is, how long ago was it that you met? If it's a month ago, I don't know that that's the carryover. If it was a week ago, I think it has more impact. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah. OKC, they puzzle me, but they play hard as heck, but I'm telling you, Rick, I'm staying Nuggets on this.
I'm staying Nuggets on this too, but I'm going to go, in spite of what happened last time and all that we've talked about, 217, it just feels a little small. This is
not just the...
What was that?
That was our podcast. I can't listen to our podcast. Oh, you do the podcast, Rick? I'm sorry.
You know what? I'm all for multitasking. I believe in that heartily, but that might be taking it.
It was an accident, man. It wasn't supposed to go, but it went.
For those who don't see this show, and I do,
Sure.
Ryan is always doing something else. Ryan is never fully engaged with me alone while we're doing the podcast. There's always something going on. He's got his cat strolling around in front of the camera. He's always looking at his phone or his computer. Damn near one of these days, I won't expect if you like make a call while we're doing the podcast at some point.
You gotta understand, like, my first experiences in radio, I've always likened it kind of to like a phone conversation. So, even though you're on the phone, you're driving, you're screwing around, you're multitasking, and it would just, everybody that I would originally do radio with, it would screw them up. They'd be like, man, you're not even looking at me. I'm like, because it's like a phone conversation, bro. Like, you know what I'm saying?
So you'd be in the studio, but you'd be gazing off in the distance, huh?
Yeah. I'm listening to you. That's all that matters. It would drive people nuts. Be like, yeah, but I'm in a phone conversation. We're on the phone talking. That's all.
That's funny. I'm here, but I'm not really here. Okay? I'm here, but I'm not really here. All right, so that's it. Those are our 6. We'll give you the other 3 via Twitter. Wherever you listen to the show, please rate the show, review us on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts. Screenshot your review and tweet it to us at Bucher Friends, and you'll be entered for a chance to win some swag from Ryan, Will Blackman, or myself. And for our next podcast, I am going to be joined by a special guest replacing Will Blackman, who is going to be overseas working for Sky Sports in London for the NFL game that's over there this weekend. D'Angelo Hall, the former DB, is going to be joining me for Monday. We will, as always, go over everything that happens in the NFL on Sunday. In the meantime, for Ryan and myself, thank you to all of our listeners. The audience continues to grow by leaps and bounds. We really appreciate that you appreciate what we're doing, and we thank you. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.